Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the American Dream. Deeply embedded in the American dream is the American Labor Union. Some would say labor unions brought us the weekend, better wages, better health and safety measures, workers' compensation, and the list goes on and on. Tonight we have two leaders from IUE Local 201, IUE-CWA Local 201, Rick Casili, who is the business agent at Local 201. He's a former union steward, former recording secretary and vice president, and now business agent. He's been negotiating contracts with GE since 1997, and he's going to share some of his experience tonight and talk about the upcoming contract. Seated to his right is Pete Capano, who's the vice president of IUE-CWA Local 201. I'm sorry, he got promoted. He's the president now. And he was the vice president, and he was on the executive board. And he's going to talk about some of the things that labor unions, particularly IUE Local 2, CWA Local 201, has done for the city of Lynn and surrounding communities. Why don't you give us some examples, Pete?
All right, thanks, Jim. Thanks for having us on here. You know, there's not a lot of opportunities for labor unions to come on shows like this, and I know you recognize the importance of labor, and thank you for having us. Yeah. So just a couple things about the local. As people know, we represent workers at GE and Lynn. It's what people usually identify with us, but we also represent workers at Logan Airport, Avis Budget Workers, Saugus Librarians, Viola Wastewater Treatment Plant in Lynn, and Amatec Wilmington. And, you know, we're really proud of our work in Lynn, and, you know, you don't hear a lot about it anymore, but we have a lot of members, you know, very engaged and involved in the community here in Lynn, and we're proud of that, you know. We're always there to help other unions. We're members of the North Shore Labor Council and work with other community groups. I'm particularly proud of our work with ECHO on the E-Team Machinist Training Program.
Fantastic job.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the structure of Local 201, the executive structure. You have a president, a business agent, you have an executive board.
Yes.
How many members do you have in the executive board?
There's 5 on the executive board. There's 12, I believe, on the policy board, which sets the policy for the local. We have 3 trustees, a treasurer, and the executive board member has a number of stewards, and they're all in charge of different parts of the plant or the different units that we have that I just mentioned, you know.
Okay. How many members do you have now?
1,800 members total.
Okay. And what specifically has the union done for the broader Lynn community? I know you, the E-Team, for example, we started to talk about that.
Yes, the E-Team, we're a founding member of the E-Team program over at Lynn Tech, and we've trained, the program is trained, which is run by a 201 member, Tony Dunn, who does a great job. About 300.
He's going to come on the show.
Oh,
later
great.
On. Yeah.
Oh, great, yeah. We trained, there's been about 300 people trained that are in the machining industry, making a living wage with benefits and a career path. There's a couple hundred that actually work at GE. There's really not a lot of training for, there's a demand for machinists still until this day. It's, you know, a lot of people
It's actually increasing, isn't it?
Yeah, because the average age of a machinist is up. It's like 55 or 56 years old, and there's not a lot of young people coming in to the industry, so there's a demand for a skilled machinist, same with most of the skilled trades.
And you donate money to community organizations?
Yes, we've probably donated, we try to figure it out, but it's over $100,000 over the last 10 years to various events, community events, charitable events, and community organizations, from the Boys Club to Girls Inc. to you name it, all the groups really in the city. That My Brother's Table, we have volunteers that go there from time to time and do work there.
Many of your members and board members and members,
the members themselves,
participate in organizations, local organizations.
That's right.
What about that program where you used to donate money to the United Way? Does that still go on?
They have, that's true, they can donate through the Good Neighbor Fund.
Money's
I believe.
taken out of
That's
people's
right.
paychecks.
That's right, automatically.
And thousands,
Automatically.
thousands, maybe millions of dollars
That's
has
right.
gone to United Way
That's
over
right.
the years.
Yep, that's right.
To
And,
benefit, and a lot of it comes right back to the city of Lynn. Jeff Haywood, who's the policy director for United Way, was on this program, and he's bringing money to Lynn. He has, and he will continue to do so. He got the Herb Haywood Scholarship. His father used to be a steward at GE, and he got the scholarship to college, the Herb Haywood Scholarship.
The Good Neighbor Fund is a joint union company
Right.
board there, so there's a number of 201 members on the Good Neighbor Fund
Right.
board too.
And
And you're correct, it comes out of their paychecks each week.
every week. So you've been negotiating contracts, Rick, for the union since 1997.
Yes, I became business agent in 1996, and 1997 they put me on the national negotiating committee for the IUE-CWA, where we do our negotiations down in New York City. So I've done I've been on the national negotiating committee 5 times.
There's a contract coming up in June, correct?
Correct.
All right. Tell us how the process has worked over the years since 1997, from your standpoint.
Okay. Well, they usually put on the national negotiating committee, the unions, they usually put, there are actually 8 unions that are part of what's called coordinated bargaining that started way back in the 1960s. But the IUE is the biggest out of the 8 international unions, and we have a national contract. Only one other union has one with GE. It's the trendsetter for the other unions. So what they do is the IUE will usually put on roughly 8 to 11 elected leaders from locals all over the country, and they usually take people, if you're a big local, you're usually going to have, but we're really negotiating for the whole country because we probably have 50 or 60 locals, and only 8 or 10 are there. So you're really down there as a national negotiator, not just for your own local. Of course, you know the issues of your own local, so they're in your mind too. But you're down there. So we have the biggest locals are in Schenectady, which is power generation, energy, Louisville, Kentucky, which possibly could get sold, but they don't think it'll happen before this bargaining. They're the biggest, and we're right with Schenectady, about almost the same size, Lynn. And we get some other aviation plants that are pretty big.
Before we get to the details of the contract, how does the contract get adopted after you negotiate?
Okay. If the National Bargaining Committee will be bargaining with GE from June 1st through June 24th, to about June 20th. Then usually GE puts on their last and best offer. The National Bargaining Committee then takes a recommendation vote to our conference board delegates. Now, every local has, by size, has a certain number of delegate votes per capita of how big you, and Pete, for example, will be coming down as a delegate and one of our board members.
So the conference board votes in New York?
Correct.
Okay.
After the negotiating committee, we'll give
Right.
them a recommendation,
Recommendation.
and we walk them through what we did, what the contract is. We only vote a recommendation as the National Bargaining Committee. The delegates then that's the big per capita vote. They decide. If the delegates vote for it, it then becomes a tentative agreement. And that tentative agreement then would go back to all the locals for the membership to vote up or down.
Okay. Now, you start June 1st, did you say?
Yes.
And that goes on for about 3 weeks. And you present what your biggest concerns are to the company.
Correct, Jim.
And do they give you what their issues are, or they just wait until the end and give you that last best offer?
That's been part of the problem I've had with this negotiating process. I, as a business agent, negotiate for what Pete had talked about earlier, Avis budget and Viola and some of the local contracts. I'm the lead negotiator. Down there, I'm not the lead negotiator. The process is different than anything I've ever experienced. In general, the company listens to the union's proposals, asks questions, might make some comments, but they do not really let us know what they don't make counter proposals. they start making them in the last week at what's called a small table, which I do not sit at. It's the top leaders, just like 4 or 5 top leaders. And the rest of us are at what's called the big table or subcommittees.
How many union people sit at the big table?
Approximately, well, let's see, there's 12. When we're all together before the small table departs, we're all together, there's probably about 20 people, maybe 25.
And how many representatives from the company sit at that table?
Probably close to the same.
Yeah. Okay. And you get that last best offer about June 20th?
Yes, right around then.
And then it goes to the conference board. How soon after that last best offer is presented to you does it go to the conference board?
The National Negotiating Committee will get it 2 days before the conference board sees it. They give us 2 days to deliberate over it, the National Committee, before we vote. So we'll have the whole package like on a Monday morning, and we'll vote the National Negotiating Committee on Tuesday. The conference board will vote Wednesday, and I think it's that June 20th to 25th period, whenever the dates fall there. And then, if it is ratified as a tentative agreement, it goes back for a membership approval, and they vote, and that probably would be about a week later, right before July 4th.
The conference board, is it a majority vote or is it?
It's per capita. So,
okay.
So like for example, we have about 8 or 9,000 members in the IUE. As actually the contract affects 16,400 if you count all the unions, and it actually affects probably another 100,000 salaried and non-union people because they usually give the same benefits to them, and there's probably 100,000 retirees out there. So it affects a lot of people.
Let me interrupt there for a minute. Obviously, there's a lot of criticism of unions sometimes, but non-union members benefit greatly from what unions do. Isn't that a fair thing to say?
That's true. I mean, years ago when there was a lot of union density, I mean, it was at one time, 35% of the country was union, which meant just about everybody you know is in a union, but everyone you didn't know was also getting benefits because the way the company would keep the union out is to offer them the same benefits that a union would have, So it's one of those things where, the rising tide lifts all boats,
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was on a ski trip a few years ago up in New Hampshire, and on my ski helmet I had a lightning bolt, which is our symbol as a union, in 201 on my helmet, and 3 non-union workers from Hooksett came up and said, "Are you from 201, Lynn?" And they said, "Yeah, thank you for everything you do."
That's
and
right.
The unions do. And I said, "You got to join us. We're getting weaker. We need more people in. That's why we're not able to hold up our wages and benefits." And they said, "Well, the hard part is the company gives us everything that you negotiate to keep the union out up here." So.
But they don't have job security the way your members do, right?
No, and they don't
That's
have
a big deal.
and seniority is a big problem
And that's
there.
a big deal.
Right.
Yeah.
And the health and safety thing, the shirtwaist fire in New York, 1913, about 100 women and girls died in the fire because of poor health and safety regulations. It was unions after that brought sensible regulations to the workplace.
Absolutely.
And you don't often get enough credit for that. Francis Perkins drove it for the Roosevelt administration, but it was the unions that were really driving.
Correct.
You were driving workers' compensation in that same period that ultimately gave workers some dignity and some benefits when they're out of work because they get injured through no fault of their own. So do you have a PR person for that?
Yeah, well, that's true. PR person would help. I mean, a lot of the benefits that you're talking about was because of labor unions.
We always hear the criticism, but we don't always hear. I mean, the weekend. Literally, did not unions bring the weekend to
That's right.
the
The
American
8-hour
people?
day,
Yeah.
the overtime.
Right.
And you don't hear that sometimes. The media, I mean, is totally controlled by the corporations now, and so you don't really get a true understanding of what's going on with the economy. Totally dismantling a lot of the things, the great achievements from FDR that have gone on through the years that we've all benefited from. And when people talk about the good old days when the economy was good, right? One of the parents worked, the other one stayed home. You know, you had a car and a house. That's all because of labor unions. People worked. People jobs paid enough where you wouldn't get rich, but you would make a living. And that story needs to be told, you know.
So, Rick, what's going on with the contract this year?
This is going to be a particularly tough one. It comes on the heels of the last one where there were a couple big locals, including Lynn, that rejected the last contract, but it got passed nationally. And the main reason we rejected it, there were actually three reasons. The company took away pensions from new hired employees, and our members really care about the next generation, and they didn't want to see the pensions cut off for new hires. Second big issue was they put us in a very high deductible co-insurance health care plan, similar to what they had done to their salaried non-union members.
What was the difference? Do you remember?
The old plan we had, we paid lower premiums. We were on like a copay visit of $15, doctors $20. Yeah. This plan is we're right away have a big deductible. It ranges based on your wage, but it could be, the deductible could be $600 to $1,600, depending on what you're doing. Once you get through your deductible, then you're still paying 20%. So one hospital stay, you basically hit it's catastrophic insurance they put us under. You're probably gonna max out somewhere between, we have an out-of-pocket max that's $3,000 to $5,000, depending on which option you're in. Okay. And you max out then, but you're also paying premiums on top of that too. You're paying, hefty premiums that have went up significantly since the last contract.
So what's going on with this contract?
So this contract, we did membership surveys over the country. Medical came out as #1, and that it was different. That it doesn't always come out #1. That was a direct result of what they took away last time. So the unions are going in there to try to say there was too much cost shifting. This was straight out cost shifting. Healthcare only went up like 1.5% in the last 4 years. GE made billions on this shift in healthcare because they did it to salaried. The salaried people got even a worse plan than ours. They shifted a lot of the cost of healthcare onto us in what they say for competition purposes. The second big issue, and it's also medical. Our medical plan covers active employees and pre-65 retirees. That's the plan I was just talking about that they changed, and so we have to get some costs out of that that they shifted on us. The second issue was for what they did to the people post-65 that are salaried management. They announced on last January 1st, they said, your forced supplement plans to Medicare that we have to fill in the Medicare gaps that everyone talks about, they took them away, stripped them. And they did it not only for people that were not retired yet, they did it to people that were 65 on the plans and retired. They were people 90 years old, salaried people 90 years old, are getting letters. They're in the nursing homes and getting letters saying, you got no more insurance, you have to go through this 2-hour process, we'll give you access to some open market exchange. GE's own estimates that we saw was that this was going to save them $1.4 billion by getting off. They basically want to be done with you when you retire, put you on Medicare, you find your own supplement, and that's what, that savings would be $1.4 million. everyone knows they're going to make this proposal on us. If they make it on us, you're talking about not only the 16,400, you're talking about the other 80 or 90,000 non-union people,
That work at GE.
and you're talking about all our retirees, over 100,000 of them out there. That's why I said the effect of this, if they take this away, and these are people 65 to 95, 100. I don't know what people are going to do. And to make matters worse, they also told people, the salary people already, if you're not retired by January 1st, 2015, you lose your life insurance. Where are you going to buy life insurance? It's 55 or 60 years old.
Right.
So I think a number of salary people heard that, probably forced them to retire before they wanted to. They were going to lose their health insurance, you know, that they counted on. These were commitments made. And
So what else is going on in the
well-
contract? What about wages? Is that, oh, no, you tell me. What's
yeah,
what's the
well,
mo-
I just want to finish on that thing.
Okay.
A very interesting thing took place on this. I said I got on the negotiating committee in '97. Their chief corporate spokesperson, their chief labor negotiator, was a man by the name of Dennis Rocheleau.
in 1997.
Yes, and he was before that too.
Where is he today?
He's retired, and he's in court probably. No, he filed a lawsuit against General Electric for taking away benefits that he said he negotiated in good faith, and that there was no financial reason for these to be ever taken away. There was no, GE's made $16 billion in profits in 2014, $16 billion. So what they're doing is making a power grab for another $4 or $5 billion by getting away from these obligations. He filed a lawsuit with a corporate benefits delivery person from GE who was retired. She lost her benefits. Both of them lost their benefits. Now, they're not doing it for themselves because they both had good salaries. And they're doing it because of the thousands of people it's hurting that don't have the salaries they have. They're almost acting in some ways as representative of non-union management. They took a lawsuit out and it's right now pending. They haven't made a decision whether it's going to go to trial.
It's a federal lawsuit, right?
Yes.
Okay. What else in the contract? What else here?
The other two issues are going to be pensions, pensions and job security. Pensions is a big thing in our location because we think about 50% of the current workforce here will retire within the next 4 years. So that'll open up a lot of jobs if we could get a job security piece in there. Because all these people retiring and our pensions are not great. We're looking for some quick pension, it's called a pension update, to kind of update our pensions for, it's a wage-based pension plan. So if you had lower wages in your early career, they're dragging down your pension at what your income, you know, the goal is to try to replace 75% of your income between Social Security and 401k and the pension. So we want to be able to get people out, and so we're really looking for a good pension update and increase. Then on job security, we haven't been able to get GE. They've shut 27 plants. 27 plants since 1994.
So what do you propose to do about job security? I want to get to Pete in a minute to talk about what you're going to do or what the union's going to do to support what Rick's doing. But what about job security? What are you doing?
Well, GE's always had this philosophy, and I've seen it for 6 contracts. Job security, their position is it can't be won at the table. It can only be won through competition and productivity. You have to win it in the workplace. The unions have been really resistant because the unions have really worked, including us, on productivity in the work plans. We've just put out 2 flyers telling our members fair days work, fair days pay. This isn't like the old days. This isn't the 60s or 70s. Maybe there wasn't the competition. We need people putting in a good day's work. For that, we're asking the company, keep the work in our plants, stop outsourcing, stop doing these foreign offset agreements, moving work overseas in low-wage areas. So that's what we're going after. And if we do have to lose jobs, have a good early retirement program for the older person to protect the younger worker's job. That's another thing they took away from us last time. So those are some of the issues we're trying to restrict in on outsourcing, farm out,
Okay.
and protecting the younger worker.
What are you doing about mobilizing behind his efforts?
There's a big mobilization effort this year, and I think the unions are more coordinated than they have ever been across the country. There's a number of things that we're doing. Just to back up with the job security thing, one of the biggest things that we're all doing, nationwide, is mobilizing against this TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. That's a huge trade deal. People remember NAFTA. This is like NAFTA on steroids. One of the reasons why companies have been able to shift offshore so much is because of these trade agreements. We have a plant in Wilmington, Amatec. As soon as NAFTA passed, 400 jobs went right to Mexico, because GE told their suppliers that it's not a question of if, it's a question of when you will move. This new trade agreement would really put the nail in the coffin in manufacturing in a lot of sectors in the country. So
I'm sorry, we're
yeah.
going to have to wrap this up. This went fast.
Yeah.
Will you come on again before June and talk about this again?
Sure, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of information, and I know people are interested.
Sure.
Great.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
That was fast.
It's quick.
Yeah,
That was
sorry. And we never got to talk about wages. That's not a big concern. We're off the camera, right?